Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start with a story in which a customer was rude to our OP, a young salesman trying to earn money for college, and was punished in a cool way. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't yell at a toy store employee. So this was about 3 years ago when I used to work as a back-of-house member for a large toy store. Working in the back meant that I had to check inventory and make sure the shelves were full. Around Christmas time, a customer came in for a toy that'd been selling like crazy. If you didn't call to reserve or order this toy for an in-store pickup, you had no chance at getting the toy. So this customer asked me for said toy, and I proceeded to tell him that if he's not ordered it, there's a minimal chance we have it in the back. He then begins to curse at me and tell me that I'm useless and incompetent at my job, also saying I'm ruining his family's Christmas. At the time, being 19, it brought me down knowing I may have ruined someone's Christmas, but the guy was such an a-hole. As I was walking to the back room to check to see if we had it, another customer asked for the same toy. It ended up being the sweetest mother I'd ever met, understanding we may be short on this toy that's been selling out every day. So I checked in back and found one of these toys hidden away, not scanned into the bays. So as you can figure out, I gave the toy to the sweet lady and came back to the guy and told him we were out. He wasn't happy. Then he sees this lady with the toy checking out and begins to freak out even further. I told him she'd asked for the toy first, which infuriated him. The satisfaction I felt from giving a gift to the woman who was polite to me felt great. I felt like Santa that day, punishing the rude, naughty, and rewarding the polite. So don't be an a-hole to a young teenage worker trying to make some change for college. We may be dumb, but we're still smart enough to screw you over. And our second story. Tailgate me and try to run me off the road? Prepare for payback. So this happened one night about 6 months ago, but I'm only now allowed to talk about it, and I'm still not allowed to show pictures or video. This guy in a big SUV very nearly rear-ended me when I was sitting at a stop sign that quite a few people roll through. I drifted my car forward almost a full 2 feet, and he still was about 2 inches off my bumper. So I'm annoyed, but I don't do anything about it. I make my turn when it's clear, and the guy rolls through the stop sign. At this point, I realize he's a D-bag, just being a D-bag. My turn is in about a mile, and the speed limit is 40 miles per hour through there. It's a pretty high-quality country road that's wider than a normal country road. It's dark out, so I know that if I get pulled over for driving slow, I can just say I'm being cautious of deer. I don't top 30 miles per hour the entire time. He's flipping his high beams constantly. About halfway through, there's a straight stretch. On the left side of the stretch, there's a guardrail, then a near sheer drop into the woods. The right side has a 2-foot deep ditch, then a sheer hillside reinforced with rocks. I've slid into it in the winter. The only way out is with a wrecker truck. In this stretch, there are multiple no passing signs. He guns it, starts to illegally pass me, then tries to push me off the road into the ditch. I lock up the brakes and slide. This causes him to swing way hard and hit the hillside. He bounces off the hill and across the road. An oncoming car has to slam his brakes and ends up sideways across the road. I watch as the guy in the SUV drops over the hill and lands sideways on a tree, which prevents him from going over the hill. I turn on my four-way flashers and go to check on the car that's across the road. The driver's around 20 and has her hands so tightly locked on the wheel, I'm pretty sure it still has finger marks imprinted in it. Otherwise, she's fine. I call 911 and request an officer. The 911 operator says she'll send someone out. I walk over to the SUV and see through the shattered passenger side window there's a guy in there screaming and trying to get loose from his belts. I notice beer cans strewn through the cab. I walk toward the back to inspect the gas tank. Don't want it randomly exploding, and it looks fine. I yell at the guy to stay calm and someone will be there in a few minutes to pull him out. He's just screaming and cussing at me. I walk back over to my car and sit down and lock the doors because I know he'll be on the warpath if he gets out of there. A few minutes later, we're still waiting on the cops, but a couple of neighbors come over and started directing traffic. I catch really fast movement coming towards me out of the corner of my eye. I turn and see the guy from the SUV charging me. He gets to my door and starts beating on my window. I start recording him doing this with my phone almost immediately. This gets him madder. After about a minute of this, I see cop lights pull up. He doesn't see them or doesn't care. He just keeps on beating the window. I hear the cops say to get away from my vehicle or they'll use force. He does and proceeds to do this Hulk arms up in the air rage move and starts to lurch forward. The cop tases the crap out of him and he drops to the ground, leaving a pretty big dent in my back driver's side door and his head. More cops show up within a minute. I think he did a reinforcements needed call, and they're cuffing the one guy, and a cop walks up to me and asks me to roll down the window, to which I try, and we realize that the guy broke the window motor. So he asked me to step out, and I explain what happened and tell him that I have video of him beating on my window, and I have dash cam footage. When I say that, he seems really happy. He tells me where to send the phone video, and I give him one of the USBs that records dash cam video in my car, which normally I would never do. My dad set up a system where as long as the car's on, it's recording to 2 USBs at the same time. I could pull them at any time, though it did catch fire at one point. The officer tells me that if they have any more questions, they'll be in touch. I walk over to the girl in the car that went sideways, and she's relaxed a little, but is still really tense and in no shape to drive. I ask her if she's okay, and she says her mom was coming to get her. I went home. I sent pictures of the damage to my insurance guy. He called me back the next day and said that my insurance would take care of everything but the tires. I locked them up so hard they were flat-spotted. About 5 months ago, I got a subpoena to appear in court. The guy who was in the SUV got charged with aggravated DUI, drunk and disorderly, failure to maintain control of a vehicle, attempted vehicular homicide, reckless endangerment, destruction of state property, the reinforcement wall on the hillside, open container in vehicle, and possession of meth with intent to deliver. I was in and out pretty quickly, basically got sworn in, said what happened, and went home. I didn't go to the sentencing hearing, but from what my lawyer told me, fortunately for me, he'll likely die in jail. Unfortunately, since he turned out to be the owner of the local paper and TV station's son, there was no press on it except for a few short blips on the radio. I really wish there was because I'd want to put it on my wall. And our last story. Co-parent threatened me with child protection report. This story takes place a few years after our breakup and settlement of our house. We've had 2 years of 50-50 custody of our daughter, 1 week on, 1 week off. Handover is Monday after school, which is good as I avoid seeing Karen most weeks. On one of my weeks, kid comes down with the stomach flu on Thursday. This carried through to Saturday. Sunday she was tired but no symptoms. I kept her home on Monday to ensure she's 48 hours symptom-free before sending her to school. I dropped kid off at Karen's, informing her that she had a stomach flu, she should be fine for school tomorrow. Without asking any additional questions, she utters a sound I've only heard camels make before closing the door. Rude. But anyway, 3 days go by, I get a call from Karen. Karen, kid's lactose intolerant. You need to get special milk. Me. Huh? Where's this coming from? She had ice cream last night and threw up 45 minutes later. I spoke to my hair and beauty teacher who said she must be lactose intolerant. Now, it's time to mention that my girlfriend at the time, wife now, is a qualified and practicing dietitian and is listening to this call as I put it on speaker. Wife, I don't really think so. Lactose intolerance mainly affects the bowels. Kid had gastro last week. The body will often reject dairy foods for 1 to 2 weeks post-gastro. If symptoms continue after 3 weeks, then it's something to look into. She went on to explain the body science behind this, but I'll spare you the details. My wife said that she can't make a formal diagnosis as that requires specific costly tests, but she can refer and treat such conditions. She said it's her professional opinion as these symptoms are sudden and presented around their same time as gastro. It's gastro-related dairy avoidance. Karen, you're not a doctor. Kid's lactose intolerant, and if you don't comply with the treatment, I'll report you to child protection. I thought for a second, said, okay, I'll make you a deal. You get the formal diagnosis, and I'll fund the full cost of the test. If it comes back negative, I'm not paying a cent. Hearing this, my wife smiled. So I pay for the test, and when I get the diagnosis, you'll pay me back the full amount? Yep, including flights and accommodation. Karen agreed to the deal. I texted her this for written evidence. She replied with, okay. A few weeks go by, kid tells me, Mommy's taking me to Melbourne for tests. I get to go on a plane. Yay! It's a good time to note that week kid was having milk with her breakfast, and surprise, surprise, no problems. Another 4 weeks go by, and Karen calls me. Karen, So the test results came back negative. The specialist said it was probably gastro-related issues. Nothing that we could have seen coming, but at least we know now. Anyway, the flights cost me $600, accommodation was $150, test was $750, so you owe me half, which is $900. Me. Firstly, my wife who treats conditions like this said it was gastro-related. You refused to listen, stating we're not doctors, but apparently your hair and beauty tech is a qualified doctor, eh? Secondly, $600, $150, $750 equals $1,500, half of which is $750, not $900, which brings me to my main point. We agreed that if the test was negative, I wasn't going to pay a cent. You agreed. I hung up, sent her a screenshot of our agreement, including her okay response. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.